Some worrying news this morning of yet another mutation of coronavirus that's been detected again in the United Kingdom. This variant, known as 501V2, has been linked to South Africa, and preliminary reports suggest that this strain is even more infectious than the UK strain that's once again put the work on edge. Now you've got the British Health Minister, Matt Hancock, saying that 2 cases of South African variant of the virus have been reported in UK. Both cases are contacts of those who travelled from South Africa over the last few weeks. United Kingdom, that's already under tough lockdown, has decided to impose restrictions now for travellers from South Africa. This mutation really comes at a time when United Kingdom has been reporting its highest daily COVID-19 cases, even more than when the pandemic actually hit its peak. South African Health Department has also blamed the recent surge in the country to the new mutated strain of COVID-19.
We've detected 2 cases of another new variant of coronavirus here in the UK. Both are contacts of cases who have travelled from South Africa over the past few weeks. This new variant is highly concerning because it is yet more transmissible and it appears to have mutated further than the new variant that's been discovered in the UK.
India is on heightened alert after this new COVID strain emerged in the United Kingdom. The centres issued new guidelines for flyers, while states too have announced fresh curbs. This as festivities are set to begin ahead of Christmas and New Year.
India has stepped up surveillance after a new, more contagious variant of coronavirus surfaced in the United Kingdom. There is heightened vigil at airports after a number of arrivals from UK in the last 2 days tested positive at airports. The government has issued standard operating procedures at airports. It made RT-PCR test a must and set up separate isolation unit for those who tested positive. Even those who tested negative have to undergo home quarantine.
As of now, based on our discussions, deep understanding of the data available, our discussions with scientists in UK, colleagues in WHO, and our own deep assessment, there is no cause for concern as panic.
The government says there is no cause for panic, but experts feel the UK strain may have crept in through passengers who tested positive.
Currently, this strain is something like 60% of this variant in the positives in the UK. So by that calculation, if you see, it's very likely that out of these 20, half of them may be the new variant.
As the threat looms large, the states too have stepped up their preparations. Delhi government has launched house-to-house tracing.
4 flights worth of passengers were checked at the Delhi airport, out of which about 5 were found corona positive. The Delhi government has also announced mandatory checks for all the passengers who come in from the UK in the last 2 weeks. The government is now going to trace and test more than 6,000 people who may have come into India from the UK in the last 2 weeks, as fears regarding the new strain heighten.
Karnataka joined Maharashtra in announcing night curfew as a precaution.
In view of the new strain of COVID-19 virus, it is decided to impose night curfew from today till 2nd January 2021 between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
The Maharashtra's Uddhav government announced restrictions ahead of Christmas and New Year. And Chennai has banned beach parties for New Year. Kerala is screening every passenger from Europe.
In a view of coming Christmas, special guidelines are issued by Maharashtra government. Not more than 50 people can assemble at a time in the church, and not more than 10 people should be present for choir singing. Also, people of the age above 60 and children below the age of 10 should be staying at home. Live telecast should be given preference. Now, also for the 31st, the BMC and the state government has appealed to people that they should party at home and stay indoors.
The alert is important because the new threat comes even as India is seeing a sustained decline in daily COVID cases. Any lapse at this moment could negate the downward curve of the dreaded virus. With Milan Sharma and Anisha in Delhi, Nagarjun in Bengaluru and Saurabh Vakhtania in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's also get you all the latest updates on the farmers' protest. The standoff clearly between the protesting farmers and the government over the 3 farm laws is continuing. It's now entered its 29th day. On Wednesday, farmer unions rejected the government's proposal for talks, asking the government to come for discussions with an open mind, concrete proposals in writing, and not to repeat the amendments which they've already proposed and has been rejected by the farmers. The central government earlier wrote a letter to the farmer unions asking them to specify their issues with the farm laws. The BJP, meanwhile, has once again claimed that the left has hijacked the farmer protests and that they're inciting the farmers against the government.
We urge the government not to repeat those meaningless amendments which we have already rejected, but come up with a concrete proposal in writing so that that can be made an agenda and the process of negotiation can be started as soon as possible.
India Today's Ashutosh Mishra also visited the Singhu border and the GT Karnal road that remains blocked by farmers, restricting traffic towards Delhi from Haryana and Punjab. Here's the latest ground report.
I am here at Kundli border, where one side goes to Singhu border, some 6 kilometers from this point, and right behind me the road connects Haryana and Punjab. Except the vehicle, those who belongs to the farmers organizations, farmers union, or these farmers coming from Haryana and Punjab towards Singhu border are allowed, but other vehicles, any other vehicles which are not belonging to the farmers, they are being diverted. जो है पीछे जो सिंघू बॉर्डर की तरफ गए हैं उसमें कुछ कमी आई है और बढ़ रहे हैं?
ना ऐसे ही चल रहा है। जो दिनचर्या है रोज की वैसे ही चल रही है।
लगातार आ रहे हैं?
हाँ, लगातार।
The farmers have blocked the national highway at Singhu border, both the sides. But there is one strategic entrance open they have kept to ensure their supply is uninterrupted. And through these narrow lanes, they are ensuring their medicines, food, ration, drinking water, everything, the supply of these essential commodities doesn't hamper. ये कैसे सुनिश्चित करते हैं कि आपकी सप्लाईज आती रहे, रास्ता खुलना है, कब बंद करना है?
और सर वो हमारे पंजाब नंबर की गाड़ी आती है ना, और किसी की नहीं जाने देते।
पीछे जो सामान आएगा, जो राशन आएगा, कोई उसको जाने देना, पानी आएगा, वो जाएगी, सप्लाई चलती रहेगी।
So here is the point where the agitating farmer and their camp begins, and from here onwards up to 6 kilometers, where that exactly the Singhu border is located, and that's how the traffic, can be seen blocked completely. यहाँ पर भीड़ बढ़ी है तो रसद भी तो खत्म हो जाएगी, तो आंदोलन कैसे चलेगा?
1 साल भर चलेगा, साल भर का राशन है हमारे पास, 1 साल का।
जितना चाहेगा चलेगा।
हफ्ते से ज्यादा का समय हो चुका है, अब नहीं लगता आपको कि घर जाना होगा या कब जाएंगे घर?
नहीं, घर का क्या फिक्र है, जब ये मानेंगे नहीं तो घर जाके क्या करना है।
सब लोग हर करनाल से आ रहे हैं?
सब करनाल से निश्चित।
कब तक आएंगे यहाँ पे?
जब तक धरना रहे, जब तक काले कानून वापस नहीं होंगे, जब तक आते रहेंगे।
For next few minutes, a time with these farmers on this moving tractor to understand their words on these farm laws, why Annadata is so angry. This is how they stayed at Singhu border. This tractor and trolley, a makeshift camp, and this is all they had in terms of assets. Why they are returning back? Why they came at Singhu border? And now, what next for them? तो अब आप गांव क्यों जा रहे हैं?
गांव जा रहे हैं अपनी खेती बाड़ी या कुछ और देखने और लोगों को साथ लेने के लिए।
अब जो लोग हैं उनको ये लगता है कि किसान जिद पर अड़े हुए हैं, तो जिद पर कौन है, सरकार है या किसान है?
किसान कोई जिद पर नहीं, सरकार अड़ी हुई है जी जिद पर। किसान तो चाहते हैं बिल माफ कर दे, हम क्यों यहाँ पर रहेंगे?
हम घर का काम धंधा करेंगे। कितना समय लगेगा आपको इसमें पहुंचने में पंजाब?
हमें 12 घंटा लगेगा।
12 घंटे लगेंगे लुधियाना जाने में?
हाँ, लुधियाना जाने में। हम अपने गांव में चले 12 घंटा लगेगा, अपना काम धंधा करेंगे, 4-5 रोज में फिर वापस आ जाएंगे।
Somewhere between Haryana and Punjab on this national highway, this is how their life have been spending in past few days, more than 3 weeks. They are agitating against the agricultural laws. The deadlock continues between the government and the farmers. But for now, on this national highway, in this moving tractor with Satya, this is Ashutosh Mishra reporting for India Today.
Over to another story we're tracking closely this morning, coming in from Karnataka, where the Congress has trained its guns on Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa after his plea seeking quashing of an old corruption case against him was turned down by the High Court. Accusing Yediyurappa of corruption, Congress demanded his immediate removal and also questioned the Prime Minister for not acting against him. Congress alleged that the Chief Minister has been delaying the investigation of graft charges against him. Yediyurappa was booked over an alleged illegal denotification of land in Bellandur when he was serving as the Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka. This was back in 2006. A case was filed against him in February 2015 on a complaint that was registered 2 years earlier. He later moved to the court. This was last year, but his plea seeking quashing of FIR was dismissed on Tuesday.
Yediyurappa has been found almost guilty and virtually guilty by the High Court of Karnataka in terms of the act of corruption by denotifying lands, which is a carryover from his previous regime. And from today onwards, since the judgment of the High Court has come, his continuance in office is completely untenable, and Mr. Yediyurappa must resign. There is no way in which he can continue in office. If the BJP has any shame, has any respect, has any sense of decorum for the people of Karnataka, they must insist that the Chief Minister of Karnataka demit office instantaneously.
28 years ago, Sister Abhaya was hit on the head with an axe and thrown into a well after she saw a priest and a nun in a compromising position at a convent in Kerala. Yesterday, her killers, in fact, Father Thomas Kottur and Sister Sefi, were sentenced to life imprisonment. Here's a look at how the fight for justice has really gone on for so many years and how it ended finally yesterday.
Justice after 28 years. Catholic priest Father Thomas Kottur and Sister Sefi sentenced to life for murdering Sister Abhaya in 1992. The nun was found dead in a well in St. Pius Convent in Kottayam. A CBI court also found the duo guilty of tampering with the evidence.
When she was taken out, no evidence was available to just conclude that it was a murder or a suicide, homicide or suicide. The situation is that, see, the local police, they came to a conclusion that it was a clear case of suicide.
ഒരുപാട് ഭീഷണികളും പ്രലോഭനങ്ങളും എല്ലാം പീഡനങ്ങളും എല്ലാം അനുഭവിച്ചു. അതിനെല്ലാം അതിജീവിക്കാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഇതൊരു ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ നിയോഗമായിട്ടാണ് നടപ്പിലാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് കോടതിയോടുള്ള ഒരു ബഹുമാനം 3 പതിറ്റാണ്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് കേസ് അട്ടിമറിച്ചിട്ടും കോടതിക്ക് മുമ്പിൽ എല്ലാ തെളിവുകളും വന്നു.
Sister Abhaya died when one early morning in March 1992, she had walked in on Father Kottur and Sister Sefi and found them in a compromising position near the kitchen of their convent. The prosecution had proved in court that while the priest overpowered and gagged Sister Abhaya, the nun had used an axe to repeatedly strike her on the head. Sister Abhaya's bleeding body was dumped in a well near the church. Initially, there was no headway in the case, with the Kerala Crime Branch probe calling it a suicide. With the prestige of the church involved, there were powerful factors at play, and a CBI probe was ordered to establish the truth in the matter. Was it a suicide or was it murder? A high-ranking CBI official, Verghese P. Thomas, even quit the probe, citing pressure. A fresh team of CBI later confirmed homicide.
ചെയ്ത ഇൻവെസ്റ്റിഗേഷൻ ശുഭപര്യവസായിയായി അവസാനിച്ചതിന് എനിക്ക് സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. പ്രതികൾക്ക് ശിക്ഷ കിട്ടാതിരിക്കാൻ നിവൃത്തിയില്ല. കേസ് വിചാരണ കുറ്റവാളിയാണെന്ന് തെളിഞ്ഞാൽ കോടതിക്ക് ശിക്ഷിക്കാതിരിക്കാൻ തരമില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ശിക്ഷയ്ക്ക് അർഹനാണെന്ന് കോടതിക്ക് ബോധ്യം വന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ന്യായമായ ശിക്ഷ കോടതി കൊടുത്തു എന്നുള്ളതിൽ എനിക്ക് സംതൃപ്തിയുണ്ട്.
The case dragged on for 28 years and there were many a twist and turn before the verdict was finally delivered.
Justice delayed is justice denied. This is a very common proverb used in the judicial context of India. Having said this, the 28-year-old long legal battle in Sister Abhaya murder case will go down in the history as a benchmark of the whole judicial system in the country. Thanks to the persistence of some lawyers, some investigating agents, and also some of the judges at the lower tiers of the courts in the country. With camera representing Gurat Shegran, Gopi Krishnan, Thiruvananthapuram for India Today.
And in a big development expected later today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing the centenary celebrations of the Vishwa Bharati University. The Prime Minister will be addressing the celebrations via video conferencing. It's slated to happen at 11 a.m. Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankar as well as the Union Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal will be present on the occasion. The varsity was founded by Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore in 1921 and it's India's oldest central university. The Prime Minister's address is set to draw sharp reactions really from the ruling TMC, which is engaged in a bitter war of words with the BJP ahead of state polls next year. The party is addressing a press conference after the Prime Minister's address. Remember that the Prime Minister's address comes just a week after Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Bengal. Amit Shah had also visited the Vishwa Bharati University. Army Chief General Naravne was on a one-day visit to Ladakh yesterday. He interacted with senior commanders. The Army Chief also undertook an on-spot inspection of the state of habitat of troops on the forward line at Rechinla. He also appreciated the efforts made by the formation to make troops comfortable along the LAC.
General Manoj Mukund Naravne, Chief of the Army Staff, visited troops at the forward location along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. The Army Chief visited troops at Rechinla, south of Pangong So, where the Army had carried out preemptive deployment along the LAC, effectively dominating Chinese Moldo garrison on August 29th. The Army Chief was briefed about deployment and the current situation along the LAC in Ladakh by Lieutenant General PGK Menon, the Fire and Fury Corps Commander. The Army Chief also reviewed extreme high-altitude shelters constructed for deployment of troops along the LAC. The India-China standoff that started early May for the past 7 months, with India now adopting a wait-and-watch policy.
It sent a message to all the people which are concerned. It sent a very good message to China and Pakistan that India is very prepared for eventuality. When Chief of Army Staff visiting the front line, it sent a very positive message. It raises the morale of the troops which are deployed in a temperature which is minus 25 to 30 degrees now.
More than 50,000 Indian troops, tanks, artillery, aircraft and air power assets are deployed along the LAC in Ladakh since early June to ensure the Chinese do not carry out any misadventure. There was an apprehension that the Chinese may attempt to alter the LAC once the passes close for winters in early December. But the Border Roads Organization has been working round the clock to ensure the passes remain open for movement of men and material should there be a need. There have been 8 rounds of talks between corps commanders of India and China for a resolution of the situation, and India insists that China must restore status quo as in April 2020 for normalization of the situation. India has rejected China's demand to meet Beijing halfway on conflict resolution. The 9th round of corps commanders talks are expected to be held soon. With Manjeet Singh Negi in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Welcome back. The BCCI will take a call on a number of issues, including extending the IPL to a 10-team affair in the annual general meeting today. Now, the board officials and state associations will have a number of items on their agenda when they sit together in Ahmedabad. According to reports, the BCCI is not looking to really rush for a 10-team IPL from next season, and most likely it will happen from 2022. Contrary to reports, there is no change in the Cricket Advisory Committee and the panel will pick the new selectors. BCCI will also decide on cricket's possible inclusion in the Olympics of 2028.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.